Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Access All Ages. I am your host, Craig Rosevear, and I'll be giving you the opportunity today to have a backstage pass to the property market. Joining me today is my trusted colleague at Capital Property Newcastle, Tom Haigh.
Thanks, Rosie. Great to be with you.
And sensational agent and all-round good guy, Brian Whiteman from the agency on the Central Coast. G'day, Brian.
Hey, mate. How you going? Good to be here.
Oh, great to have you on the show. Been very excited to get you on and have a chat. And this is the perfect opportunity right now. So, Brian, just for our viewers out there today, why don't you just give a little bit of a background about what you do?
All right, mate. Well, we started the agency about 2 years ago on the Central Coast. Prior to that, we spent about 4.5 years with McGrath Central Coast. With Longevity is where we were established first.
And what are the main areas that you cover now?
Yeah, look, we cover all of the Central Coast. We still heavily, we do dominate that Longevity, Shelley Beach, Baddo Bay, Foresters Beach areas. But because of our early trade with Longevity, that's kind of been our wheelhouse.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I work as an auctioneer, as you know, and Brian's a very good client of mine and does a wonderful job on the Central Coast. But we often see the Central Coast is on a different, it's a different market and works on a different timing to, say, Maitland, Port Stephens and Newcastle, which is the other areas that I cover. So just out of interest, Brian, things have been fairly good for you on the Central Coast during this whole coronavirus situation.
Yeah, look, COVID-19 has been tremendously kind to us. We've lately, I must say, the last 10 days have been pretty crazy. We've had 6 or 7 go under cool off, and we've sold, I think, 4 for the month. So it's looking around about 10 for the month, which is a pretty healthy month indeed for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think the reason why the Central Coast has sort of, come to the forefront as far as people wanting to move and live there?
Yeah, look, I think the proximity to Sydney has, and particularly with COVID, we're getting so many buyers wanting to get into our lifestyle because we're so close to them. And I think COVID's pushing them more than ever our way, which has been awesome.
Yeah, sure is. I mean, there's plenty of great lifestyle. Tom, you've got a fair bit to do with the Central Coast yourself. You do some work with Triple M down there as far as helping them with their property and analysis. What are you seeing yourself?
Probably very similar to what Brian mentioned, Rosie, in that genuinely I think people at this point are looking at how they're living. People are looking at their work arrangements and some of the flexibilities that have been identified through this COVID period. I think recognition of the different ways to work, elimination of the commute potentially for a lot of people, and interest in just a better lifestyle for families. We've long known that the Central Coast is such a great location to bring a family up, as is Newcastle on the coast, access to the water, all those great things. I think really now it's sort of allowed people to have some time to reflect on how they're living. And the Central Coast is no doubt a huge attraction point, as it has been for a lot of retirees for a lot of years. There's obviously huge evidence of the long-term trend of retirees out of the North Shore, out of Sydney, obviously selling up and moving up to the coast for all of the lifestyle benefits. But it does seem like that's now trickling down to those younger age brackets of the mid-30s, mid-40s couples and families who want a better lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Your buyers, the people who have been interested in the homes that you've been selling, if you sold 10 in this month, Brian, do they match that criteria? Are they people from maybe migrating from Sydney or just wanting to have that better quality of life, not in the city?
Yeah, look, I think Tom read the script there, mate. That was about spot on what I'm saying. That's exactly what's happening. And I just got off the phone to a couple that we valued the home they're purchasing yesterday, and they got an agreed value on it. They're between 30 and 40. They're on the younger side, but they're doing exactly that. They'll be working from home and doing a bit of a commute, but also getting a lot of retirees really pushing up this way, seeing value. So yeah, we're getting a bit of a mixed bag, but young couples are certainly on the radar with us at the moment.
Yeah. So what suburbs, like for the first home buyers, what are they name some of those suburbs that if we've got some first home buyers now watching the show, where they should they be looking?
Yeah, well, we've had we just sold one in Foresters Beach. It went for around the 930 mark, and they've been looking in Sydney for quite a while, saving a deposit, but just having trouble getting in. So they've ended up with a big, massive 5-bedroom, 3-bath, big double garage, and probably about 4 different living zones. So they've got themselves a really big home close to the beach. They live down there in an apartment and coming up here into a beautiful big home straight up. So that's what's happening. And so Foresters Beach was one of the areas. Baddo Bay has been really, really popular, and Long Jetty, Shelley Beach along the fringe there have also attracted a lot of them.
Yeah, Brian, I mean, I'm a massive fan of Foresters Beach, as you know, and you had a house for sale that we auctioned a little while ago, and I'm thinking, wow, I want this one myself, you know. We're talking about some really cool names: Shelley Beach, Foresters Beach, Baddo Bay. Can you just, for the people who are watching this and have never been to those places, just give us a little bit of a description about what life is like living in those postcodes?
Yeah, look, that's a good one, Rosie. Basically, most people know Terrigal, right? So if you go to, and the other icon is basically the entrance. So if you go between those two, you're basically Terrigal, Wombrel, Foresters Beach, Baddo Bay, Shelley Beach, and then your Tawoon Bay, Blue Bay, then the entrance. So it runs in order across. And look, or Foresters Beach is a real surfing beach. So you get a lot of surfers coming here. If you're wondering where your tradies are at, they're generally at the break there when it's on. So it's a pretty popular spot. Tawoon Bay, if you go a bit further up, it's nice protected area for kids. So a lot of families head down there because it's got a nice flat entry to the water and a very gentle break. And if you head to the right, there's another good surf patrol beach there, which is Shelley Beach. So Baddo Bay is popular for the surfies and the fishermen too. So, and really good diving around Baddo Bay off the point.
This is home and away sort of stuff, isn't it? You know, the lifestyle that you lead here. It's like where you can walk to the fish and chip shop, grab your fish and chips and your milkshake and go down for a surf and walk back, and you'll know pretty much every single person along the way. But it really is like, you know, you live in Baddo Bay, right? So it's like, you know, you can't get any better than loving the area that you live in.
Yeah, no, we do, mate. We love where we live, and it's kind of cool introducing people to it that haven't seen it before, because they just can't believe you can, for under $1 million, you can come in and live just off the beach. So it's a pretty cool thing.
Oh yeah, I mean $930,000. You know, if you're coming from a capital city, that doesn't really get you that much. So I think it's a great move there. So that's a great price point, not only for a first home buyer, but for retirees. And I've seen some of the quality of these homes. They're big homes. Some of them, I mean, a 930, I guess that hasn't been renovated. This is like a house that is solid but could be renovated. But what about if I've sold up in Sydney my red brick and blue roof house in West Sydney, and I've got a couple of mil. Where should I buy around with you?
Yeah, look, there's so many areas to choose from. At the moment, it's hard to get right next to the beach for under a 2 mil. 2 mil sort of the budget to get onto the beach, but once you get over that, you can actually get onto the beach line nearly anywhere on the Central Coast. So just depending on budgets, of course, but up to 2 mil buys you a premium home around any of those enclaves.
Brian, where are you seeing some of the opportunities in this market? So obviously you've mentioned, you can live at Foresters Beach for $930,000 first home buy. That, yeah, great opportunity. But what about maybe some real entry level price points? Where would I go? Where should I look for that sort of thing?
Yeah, look, along Berkeley Vale, Killarney Vale, they're on the Tuggerah Lake system there. You can buy homes along there from sort of $550 to, say, $750 that are very, very close to the lake. And it has a cycle walkway that takes you around to the beaches. So that's a really good entry point if you're looking for something with value. And they're getting good growth because it's close to, close to the freeway and so forth too.
Yeah. So that proximity that you mentioned before, Tom, Haigh, you're seeing people moving up from Sydney. You're seeing some great opportunities. How do you think the obviously Central Coast is really a growth area during this whole COVID-19 situation? What are you seeing specifically out there in the market, Tom?
Yeah, I guess there's a few things happening, Rosie, and the flexibility around work arrangements is probably one of the biggest trends, the biggest emerging trends at the moment. I think one of the biggest challenges for the Central Coast has always been access to a really stable employment base. There's a lot of industry now that's emerging on the coast. There are some great employers there, but for a long time, I think a lot of people have had to commute to Sydney. With the advancements in tech and the ability to work from home, I think that's created far more opportunities for people to genuinely have that lifestyle, live on the Central Coast, and still access high-paying jobs, high-paying income. So that's a huge, I guess, factor to consider. The other one is probably the gentrification of a few areas or a few pockets of the coast that might have been a bit grungy, say 5 or 10 years ago, but have really begun to emerge as attractive places to live. And one of those areas is an area that Brian knows very well, which is Long Jetty. So not too long ago, it was a bit of a daggy place. But whether it's the Brian Whiteman effect or the Kyle and Cara effect, we're seeing hordes of young families wanting to flood into Long Jetty to be part of, I guess, what's happening there with this gentrification. Young families coming in, renovating, extending, building new homes. We've seen the hipster cafes follow closely behind, and now I think all the yoga lofts and everything like that follows along. So it's been really interesting to watch the change. Brian, I'd be interested in your take on that, having seen it firsthand.
Yeah, look, you're right on the money. Like Tom, Long Jetty has gone from for a house for about 350,000 to about 750 now. So it's had a massive input to what's going on around us. But the one thing that we've noticed is that it's between the lake and the ocean, and it's pretty much flat. So retirees are loving it too. So they kind of come in looking for a really good block to build on. Where there's lots of young families coming in too, as you're saying, and getting into that market. But it's kind of the ideal spot. If you look where it's at, you basically can get on a push bike and ride anywhere without really encountering any hill or anything like that. Where if you go to Terrigal or Foresters Beach, any of the other ones, you got to put a bit of effort in to get around on a push bike. So it's attracted a broad market, and we've seen some amazing sales throughout. Kyle and Cara, 1.6 million for a home that if you went back a year prior, if you got 900 for that, we'd be all cheering, So it's changed dramatically, and for a good reason. It is a good spot. It's so close to everything, and the entrance is kind of underrated, and it's right next door. It has the big and a lot of fishing and a lot of lifestyle to that too. But you're right about the cafes; they are pumping down there. That become the trendy hub to hang out now. If you're going to catch up with somebody, you get a choice of 5 really cool cafes there. So, yeah, it's really nice.
Where's your go-to, Brian? You like the glass onion down there?
Yeah, it's pretty good. And you got the green tangerine across the road, and so many good ones around there. Like, there's not a bad coffee. That's the really cool part. Doesn't matter where you go. That's not the case. So and what do they always say, Tom? Smell the coffee beans. If there's coffee beans popping up here and there, it's a good place to buy real estate. So it's really on that one.
So you mentioned the entrance. The entrance has always been the aspirational suburb, and years ago, Long Jetty was like, you bought there because you couldn't afford to buy in the entrance. But with the development, the gentrification of Long Jetty, that's been happening for the past few years. And yeah, there are some fantastic coffee shops, and it's got a real buzz to it. But sounds like to me that the entrance may be like slightly undervalued for what it provides in this current market. Do you think there, Brian?
Yeah, I think there's really good opportunity around the entrance now. And you're right, that was the one that everyone knew. It was either sort of Terrigal or the entrance. So basically, the highest price home ever sold in the entrance is 1.2 million, which we sold probably a year or two ago now. And the highest price in Long Jetty has really overtaken it. You're kind of looking at the 1.7 to 1.8 mark for the highest ones in there now. So there's definitely value back that way. And there's some fibro shacks that really need to be knocked down. You put a home on, there's good money to be made.
Yeah, I think, for anyone who hasn't been around those areas, you really do need to go and stay for a few days. When you say, Brian, there's so many nuances to it. They're all so close to water, to either to the lake or to the beach. It's sort of worthy sort of sticking around for a while and sort of getting into the fabric of what happens there, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the entrance comes alive. It has like a big area, like a big park area where all the carnival gets set up every year, and yeah, it's the holiday spot that everyone wants to go to. And if you live on the coast, you end up going there for a meal, and you kind of feel you're in theme there. It's so busy and so pumping around the waterway.
Yeah, and I mean, there's the hidden nuggets too, like the Shelley Beach Golf Club, one of my favorite places to go. You got surf clubs, and these aren't even like places that would be on the top list of restaurants and what to go to, but they're just funky little places to eat, right?
Yeah, totally, mate. And look, generally when we're selling homes on Saturday, we're always sending people to those sort of venues, go down to Tawoon Bay or Shelley Beach or wherever it may be. Like, there's so many opportunities. Even Wombrel Surf Club's another cool one to hang out at. So, yeah, you've got heaps to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great area. It sounds like there's some really good value or whatever price range you're looking in, from the 500,000s for something out Wombi straight up to 930,000, which I think is fantastic to buy in Foresters Beach. And if you haven't been to Foresters Beach, definitely check that out. And you got places with 180-degree views of the ocean, or if you like to have lake views, you can do that too. I mean, these things are just a stone's throw away. So I'm excited by it all. How do we get in contact with you, Brian? What's the best way to get in contact to find out more?
Yeah, just basically Google us on the website or on the phone number, mate, 0400 412 762. And look, we've got a huge range of properties, and we've been doing heaps of appraisals lately. So we've got a bit of an endless bag of great properties coming.
Well, one thing I do know from you, Brian, having worked with you for many years, is you are not the typical pushy real estate salesman. You are a real advisor. You come from a great place of just wanting to connect people with the property that suits them, and you do it in such a humble and caring way. So, guys, if you're out there right now and you want to find out more about the Central Coast, don't feel like Brian's going to be pushing a property. He'll show you the sites first, and you can make up your own mind, right, Brian?
Exactly, mate. Yeah, well put.
Well, guys, so much fun to have you had on the Central Coast. I enjoyed talking with Brian Whiteman today from the agency, and with my colleague Tom Haigh. If you want to get in contact with myself, you can send me an email to craig@capitalpropertynewcastle.com.au, and I'll be very happy to point you in the right direction. For example, with my very good friend Brian Whiteman from the agency, who will not put you in a bad place on the Central Coast. He will only find you gold, and more gold. So let's check that out. So thanks very much for joining us today, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Access All Agents, and it's a very good bye for now.